Next question has a lot of controversy around it. Are we allowed to drink alcohol, and what does the Bible say about it? The question itself shows the difference between our culture today and the culture of Jesus' day. There are countries you can go to today, and you better not drink the water because it has the parasites that will make you sick. And they aren't very far away from our country, Mexico, other places, on certain islands. So even today, you need to find something that's purified or at least in some way sterilized. And in those days, wine did that. When they were able to have if you want to say, a purified medicinal drink, and it was used all over the world. Because water you just didn't drink. It was not going to be good for you. And even Paul in 1 Timothy said to Timothy, take a little wine for the stomach because it would help your stomach problems that Timothy was having. So the first thing to realize is the question really should be, should you drink or not? The question should be more understanding what it's really about, the idea of drinking. It's really about drunkenness. And the Bible speaks in many places about those that are drunkards will not inherit the kingdom of God. But even then, drunkenness can be wine, beer, it can be a prescription drug. How many entertainers have died taking too many prescription drugs? So even then you sort of go, well, okay, drunkenness. Drunkenness can be, the same thing as gluttony. I mean, you can have one little bowl of ice cream or you got to eat the whole half gallon. Well, which one's best for you? Well, the little bit's better than the whole half gallon at one time. So that's really the question a person should ask. But even more than that is what Paul said to the Corinthian church, because to broaden this a little bit more, we talk about one thing, which drinking wine, but they had a bigger problem. It was food. You couldn't eat certain foods because of the Levite law. Certain impure animals in their day, we don't call them impure now. Everybody can have shrimp on the barbie today, but in those days you didn't eat shrimp if you were Jewish because it was an animal that crawled on the bottom. Same thing true for pigs. They ate the slop. So there are certain animals that they were told not to eat, and it was for medicinal purposes, to keep them from having parasites and germs that could harm them. But today we have bacon and we have shrimp, so we don't even have the same world from the food. Then we don't, in this country anyway, sacrifice animals to temples for demonic worship. Now they do in voodoo, they sacrifice chickens and put blood on the altars, and that's the kind of thing that was happening in the time of the Bible. They took animals and certain kinds of foods and they brought them to the idol worshiping place that was demonic. And so, can you eat the pomegranate after it's been up on the altar? That was the kind of questions they had, because the food was after you became a Christian, now what can I eat that's acceptable? And so Paul says some things here in 1 Corinthians 8 that I want to read to you, because I think they bear out really what the important thing is. Now concerning things offered to idols, we know we have knowledge, and knowledge puffs up, but love edifies. Look what he said, love edifies. Therefore, concerning the eating of things offered to idols, we know that an idol is nothing, and there's no other God but one. However, there is not in everyone certain knowledge of things. For with one's conscience of the idol, a person could eat it even though it's offered to an idol. But another's conscience, being weaker than that other person, would be defiled. But food does not commend us to God. In other words, the food or the drink has nothing to do with God, really. But what does it? For neither if we eat are we the better, nor if we do not eat are we the worse. So let's put this in its place. The wine doesn't matter, the food doesn't matter. What does matter? What matters is, beware lest the liberty of yours become a stumbling block to those who are weak. And that's really the point. If anyone sees you have knowledge eating in an idol's temple, will not the conscience of he who is weak be bonded to eat those things offered to idols? And because of your knowledge shall the weak brother perish for whom Christ died? But when you thus sin against the brethren, notice what he's saying. It's not about the drinking of the wine or the eating of the food for an idol. It's about the person sinning against a weaker brethren or sister and wound their conscience, and your sin then is against Christ, what he did to set them free. Therefore, if food makes my brother stumble, if pigs in a blanket bothers my brother, that's what would be a Jewish way of looking at it. You know, bacon with my eggs, well, then I'm not going to have bacon with my eggs if I'm having breakfast with my Jewish brother and he has trouble with bacon and eggs. That's what he's saying. To you and I, it'd be the same thing. If you have a friend that's an alcoholic, would you go and order liquor in front of that person with your food? Probably not if you have any conscience at all. And that's really the point. What you have liberty to do, whether it's to drink a glass of wine or to do other things like they talk about, eat food that was sacrificed to idols, that's between you and the Lord. You have a conscience that gives you the freedom to do that, then you should. But when it comes to another person, and this really is the question you should ask, what would it do to another person? Would I cause them to stumble by having a beer in front of them? Well, if it would, then your answer is real simple. Then don't do it. And that right in itself really tells you something very clearly. If you can't turn away from a beer, or if you can't turn away from a glass of wine, then who has the problem? You do. So the reason the Bible said don't be drunk was simply because of the accessibility in the physical that brings harm. A drunken person can cause an accident to kill someone. They can be someone that mistreats another person. They're killing their liver and they're going to die early. I mean, these are all things that God said to protect us from harming others or ourselves. So that's why drunkenness should not be something we do in any capacity. Wine, beer, drugs, whatever. But the point I'm saying to you is, it really comes down to, don't do something that could cause another brother or sister in the Lord to stumble. And then really your witness should be what you think about it. Drinking something in public before people you don't know, is that a good idea? When you say you're a Christian? Probably not. And so it would be better to stay in the freedom that Christ has given to us. And I realize this is probably not the direct answer you wanted. You probably wanted a Bible verse that says that thou shalt not drink wine. Well, it's not in the Bible, so I'm sorry. What it does say, don't be a drunk. But the other side of it should be really considered. The freedom you have should not be used to cause another person to stumble. Be aware of your example to others and let that be your guide. And really, drinking wine or eating the wrong thing is not going to get you to heaven. It has nothing to do with it. But it does have to do with how you live in this life as regard to others. And that really should be about, to me, the answer to the question. It's about love, not about getting some kind of pride and getting all puffed up. It should be we do things to edify and love others. Amen?